Good morning and welcome to this video. My name is Zach. I live in a van named Gertie with my dog Winter. It's going to be a fairly slow, fairly relaxing, different pace version. I just completed my Sunday morning routine as you saw, and now it is early afternoon and I'm late for the dog walk. Today we're just going to be hanging around camp, doing some things I like to do around camp, riding my motorcycle around, getting some drills in to try to improve my skills. I had a crash a little over a year ago and broke some ribs and created some scars on my body, so mentally I thought it was a good time to take a break, so I did, and now I've been slowly working in some drills and skills-based stuff, kind of taking it back from the beginning, except honing the skills that I acquired earlier in my riding career, but now I'm focusing on safety and smoothness and being consistent with my riding so that I'm not crashing and hurting myself and damaging the motorcycle. But first we need to get this walk underway. Winnie has been extremely patient and she is just starting to lose her patience with me. So I think it's probably a good time to get our legs moving and get this day started. So let's get to it. Ready to go? Let's go, Winnie.
Already wet. You already got no water.
Groceries today. Just wanted to dispel the potential impression that my last video put on that I never pick up trash. I pick up a lot of trash. I just can't pick up all of it. I always try to get at least a mile, preferably 2 miles, and hopefully at least 3 miles out of every walk. Good for me, good for Winnie. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take the road all the way over to the boat ramp and then walk the shoreline back to the van. That should give us at least a mile, probably closer to 2 miles. Oh look, dung beetles. We're gonna go check out this tiny little dam here. I've definitely seen a lot smaller. This is just a nice little earthen dam. Seems to do a pretty good job. I hope next time I come back, the water levels have raised up a bit. That would be pretty cool. It's actually a pretty good sized dam. 30 to 40 feet high on this side. Well, that's the dam. We're going to start start heading back. Well, we made it back to the van, and then I decided that I wanted pizza. And since I just got a new fridge that can be a freezer as well, I cleaned it out and turned down the temperature so that I could toss a frozen pizza in there so that I don't have to worry too much about dinner tonight. It'll be an easy cook. I even got my favorite Canadian bacon and pineapple, aka Hawaiian. So that is going to be dinner for tonight. But right now I think it's probably a great time to do a quick camp tour. I don't really like calling it a camp because it's where I live. So it's more like a parking spot or a temporary property. I don't know. It's not my property. When you park somewhere, it kind of becomes your space. And generally, people will leave you alone if you're in this kind of environment like I am right now, where there's no reason to park near me, to camp near me. So it's a really nice little area that keeps me quite private. The only way to get out here is this little road here, and I've had 2 cars drive down it and then just kind of loop back around and leave. That's a really long way of saying that I don't really like calling it a camp, but I call it a camp just because that's what people understand, and people think I'm camping, and that's kind of what I like people to assume. I just happen to be able to camp for 10 plus days at most places. My goal really is to stay at most places for about 10 to 15 days, because that greatly reduces the amount of resources I use driving around and stuff like that. So now I actually have the range, so to say, to do that, because I have a lot of water on the van. I just did a big project where I added my old 25-gallon tank to the trailer, so I have an auxiliary water tank, which brings my total from 40 up to 65. And 3 or 4 months ago it was actually only 25. So I've had a lot of improvements to my water capacity. I don't actually even use my spare water tanks. They're just in a box in my trailer now, because I use less space and it's less of a bother to just use the 25-gallon onboard for my trailer. We're going to start at the back here. I got my trailer open, which is effectively my garage. That's where I have my bicycle, which is now strapped to the, let's get in here, which is now connected to the roof here and then strapped to the wall so it doesn't move around. The main goal of the renovations was to get it so that I had the water in there, and then get everything in there secured in such a way that I can pull just the motorcycle out with minimal effort. And I was able to accomplish that goal. As you can see, the bike's right there, and the trailer is empty, but everything's still in there. I used to have to remove everything before I could pull the bike out, and then I'd put everything back in and the bike is stuck outside, which I really didn't like. Now if it starts raining or at night, I can put the bike away without having to strap it down and without having to move everything out of the way. So it really simplifies the process of pulling the bike out to ride. And when you're on the road and traveling and stuff like that, it's much better if it's just easy to do stuff. So there's a lot of shifting around and things changing that I do to make it work well. So as you can see, the bike is out, ready to go when I ride it after this quick tour. We are about 30 or 40 feet away from the shore here, which makes it really nice so that Winnie can get her daily dips in. She takes probably about 15 dips depending on the weather. Today is warmer than it has been, and she's more active than she has been, so she's been taking a lot of dips today, and I love it because it keeps her cool, and she clearly loves getting in the water. Pretty standard setup here. I have my DeWalt work table that I use as my camp table because it's really solid and easy to move around. I got my grill on top of that, and we are parked kind of east-west-ish, kind of with a northern tilt. And there's my Starlink. My Starlink almost always points kind of northish, so that way is north, and so that kind of gives you the orientation of the van. You can see over on my trailer, another change that I made was I got my spare tire mount finally put on the outside of the van. That spare tire mount is technically designed to go on the square crossbar for the tongue for the trailer, but since my trailer is so small and the tongue is so short, it's unable to do that. So after about 2.5 years of carrying it around, I just stuck it through the wall with the 2 lugs sticking out and attached it right over my wheel well. I did it over the wheel well because that kind of prevents it from bouncing, even though I don't think it would once tightened down. I wanted to have some extra support on it, and it makes it way easier to attach and detach because it's not trying to drop off, or when I loosen it up, it's not pulling all its weight down on those lugs, which are just kind of stuck through the wall in a fairly non-solid manner. But because when I renovated the trailer last spring, I put in 1/2-inch thick walls rather than the original 1/8 or even smaller than that walls. I couldn't even screw like something into them, like a hook, without it breaking off. And then my walls were actually falling off when I finally got around to renovating the trailer. I do have a van tour that I'm going to film soon. I want to do a whole new van tour to include the trailer, because my last one did not really include the trailer because it was so gross and so disorganized, and I was frankly quite embarrassed about it. Now I'm super proud of the trailer. The inside is great. I have it set up so that I can get AC power to it by just running an extension cord from the van into the trailer, which allows me to charge my bike if I'm driving or if I'm sitting still. I just run an extension cord, plug it in right about the tongue here, and that allows me to keep it charged without putting in a whole electrical system in the trailer. So I just got this little extension cord here, and it's set up in such a way that I can drive down the road without it causing issues, in theory. It hasn't yet, so I don't always have that plugged in, but it's very handy to have. You can also see I got my generator here. I like to put it right by the trailer, kind of opposite back here, so that I don't hear it as much, and it kind of muffles the sound from going out across the lake, which it will. I'm sure if you're at the far end of the lake and I'm running it, you could probably hear it just a little bit. It's actually a really quiet generator, and it's a really small one. It's only, I think it's a 2,000 watt amp. I don't know, I think it's watt. So yeah, 2,000 something. I think it runs at 1,800. It's not the most powerful one on the planet by far, but it's also not the weakest one. It's just like one step up. It's a nice little Harbor Freight doodad, but it works great. It's actually pretty quiet. I barely hear it inside the van. It doesn't make it harder to hear anything. There's just kind of that general rumble all the way. But that's my camp. Nice little private spot. This reservoir, which is quite small, has been really, really private for me. That would be my small camp. The wind has decided to enter the chat, and it's definitely time to get the motorcycle running, get some of my safety gear on, at least my boots, gloves, and a helmet, just to make sure I don't get any serious injuries. Even though I'm going to be going pretty slow, it's always a good idea to have at least some safety gear on. The most likely injury on a dirt bike is something to the leg, ankle, so boots are absolutely necessary. It's really easy to fall over and snap some bones or cause some bruising. I've definitely appreciated having boots a lot in the past. For instance, I crashed my 450 and the engine landed, the bike and the engine landed on my ankle or my leg. Thankfully, it didn't break anything. It just caused a contusion. It is about as painful as a break, but you don't have to stop using the leg. So you just deal with this bruise to your bone that aches and hurts and takes time to heal. And yeah, that hurts. Actually, just talking about it, my leg has started to ache. So I've broken one leg and contused the other. So I definitely have to consider the injury potential of the motorcycle. And you know, after breaking a rib or two, it's in the front of my mind all the time now. And contusing and all these other issues I've had. Dirt bikes, you get injured, and that's just the way it goes. And that's why I took a break for a while, because I had to kind of come to grips with that. It's easy to know that you're going to get injured, but when you have a serious injury in the middle of nowhere and you have to self-rescue and you have to recover on your own, and then you have to doctor yourself, because I was over 2 to 3 hours away from a hospital. And that would be after I picked up camp and took off, because I couldn't leave my trailer or anything. It was a pretty serious situation that thankfully wasn't life-threatening. And I really appreciate that it wasn't life-threatening and that I was able to take care of myself. But it still took me, it's 6 weeks to repair a broken bone to the state where it's kind of fixed. But then it takes months before it stops aching. And even longer than that before you're able to do things that you had to stop doing. For instance, I couldn't lay on my stomach for probably 3 or 4 months because it hurt. And with injuries, you have to consider there's a mental aspect to every injury. I'm always very impressed with people that jump right back on the horse and get right into it. For me, it seemed a good idea to take a break. Without too much more time wasted, I am going to get suited up, set up my course, and start riding.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna be right here with you.
I got all the safety gear on. This neck brace. Is it on right? This neck brace is actually new, as is this armor jacket. I should be wearing knee pads as well, or my knee pad brace thing, whatever you call it. But I'm not going to, and I may regret it. I just hope I don't. Currently they're damaged. I'm hoping to get it repaired, and then I'm gonna move on from there. Yeah, this thing, I'm excited to have the neck brace on. These things, I thought they would be uncomfortable and limit my movement. Like, pretty much all I can't do is look down, especially with this mount on. But looking down is actually a bad thing, so hopefully it'll keep my head in the right place and I won't have to worry too much about it. But it stops my head from going too far in any direction, and that is the goal of a neck brace, is to keep the head from going too far. And I've sustained some neck and head injuries in the past, not necessarily from motorcycling. Actually, all of it's from motorcycling except for my snowboard injuries. And after that last crash, I just couldn't accept it anymore, so I went and I got a neck brace, thinking that it would be uncomfortable, but I'd get used to it. But honestly, I don't even notice it. I can't believe I waited this long. And this is like kind of a mid-range one. It's not a low end, but it's also not the carbon fiber one. Didn't cost that much money, and if it saves my neck, it'll be worth it. This suit I have on, this upper body thing, is CE level 2 all over my body. So it's all like, this has a pretty hard plate on it, plastic plate, probably for roost. But I have elbow, shoulder, back pads that should protect my back and my chest, which are two areas that get hit pretty bad in crashes, as do the knees and elbows. So I'm actually pretty excited to have all this stuff so that if I do crash, I'm much less likely to get injured. It's hard to talk in a helmet because it's squishing my cheeks in like it's supposed to, which means I'm practically biting my lip every time I talk. So I'm going to set up my course and then start riding, and then I'm going to bake a pizza, and it's going to be fantastic. Nothing like being hungry before a good meal. Let's get started.
No! That's not a toy. What the heck?
So it's a pretty easy course. I set up these guys here, this line. Can you see it? Can you see it? I don't know. There it is. Anyways, this line here of 6, I am going to weave my way between them, or I may do it in such a way that I put them between the bike, between the tires, basically straddle it with the tires as I weave through. these 4 over here, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 on one side and 1, 2 on the other side, is a wheelie gate. I'm to come up to this first set of cones here and then wheelie and try to keep my tire up to the next one. Wheelies, I can get my tire light and up and over stuff, but I don't have very much control with the clutch, so I want to be able to bring it up and then set it down where I want to. I used to be a lot better at that, but I'm kind of terrible now. I was practicing a little bit earlier when I shouldn't have without the gear. And then these last 2 over here, that one, those are my figure 8s. So when I get tired of one obstacle, I'll go to the next one and then to the next one. And I'm just gonna do them until I'm over it. So wheelies, the weave, and figure 8. Sounds really boring, but it's very difficult, and it's gonna definitely keep me busy. So I'm looking forward to getting going. Let's do it.
You give me that good vibe, alright. You got that good vibe. You give me that good vibe, all night. You get me so high. You give me that good vibe, alright. You know what you do to me. Got me feeling helpless, no remedy. It's like I'm living in the movie scene, and I can't deny this chemistry. Oh my god, it's so electric, unexpected. Oh my god, this feels so reckless. Through my defenses, you got that good vibe. You give me that good vibe all night. You get me so high. You give me that good vibe, alright. Come a little closer, I just wanna hold you, never let it fade away. All this time is golden, natural emotion, never let it go.
Feel like people shooting
You
around
got
here, not
that
knowing
good
where.
vibe,
Sounds like a shotgun.
you give me that good vibe all night.
And I need an excuse to never driven like across the dam before. There she is! Hi, Winter! Good girl! Good girl! Wow, I gotta tell you, I missed riding. It wasn't like my usual where I go off and explore something cool or ride fast and do all that stuff, which is kind of what got me in trouble. It's a lot safer to ride near the van and do drills and practice and get better before going off and doing that. So that's what I'm going to be doing for a while. I don't really know how long, but I really want to hone a lot of skills, and it felt good to do that. It felt really good to sweat and work some muscles I haven't worked in a while. And I am dead tired now. I am aching in places I haven't ached in a while. I'm sore in places I haven't been sore in a while. And I used some muscles that I definitely haven't used in quite a while. But everything's good. The bike's running good. I feel pretty good. My skills haven't diminished too badly. I definitely have to work on coordinating all of my limbs again, but I don't have any really bad habits. I don't have any really great habits, but nothing's really bad. When I was doing my wheelies, I was covering the rear brake, which is vital to any wheelie work. And my clutch work was okay, not really smooth, and my steering was definitely a lot more wobbly than I really wanted it to be. But I see room for improvement, lots of room for improvement, but I'm also not starting from zero. My balance is pretty good. My body position, I think, is pretty good. If you're an expert on riding, or if you're better than me, feel free to throw some advice down in the comments. I'll definitely read through that and see if any of it helps me. But overall, I feel pretty good. My new gear is great. My new armor jacket thing with all the CE level 2 armor is good. The level 2 stuff is D3O, and D3O is a non-Newtonian thing. Solid, non-Newtonian solid. It's super flexible, but if you hit it hard, it instantly hardens up and protects the body. So if I were to fall off the bike and land on my elbow, shoulder, back, chest, whatever, I would feel a lot less of the impact. And if I fell on a big rock, it's less likely to cause any serious bruising. It wasn't very hot out today, and I sweated a lot, which felt great. But it wasn't too hot wearing that, and the neck brace felt great. It didn't restrict my movement at all. My head was where it should be, and if I fell off and landed on my head, my neck would be much more protected from being hyperextended anyway. You know, hyperextension is really anything further than this stuff. But I definitely have some neck issues that are partially from the Navy, partially from crashing motorcycles, and partially from wrecking on my snowboard. It's time to get my pizza going. I gotta get my oven cooking. This thing doesn't have a clicky thing. I have to light the pilot light, which I guess theoretically I could leave that on all the time, but that doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, I store stuff in here. This stops it from moving around. I haven't showed you my new freezer yet. This thing is sweet. I'm a big fan. So I have this over just to give it some extra insulation. It has a USB plug, which is pretty cool. And yeah, the sun could be on it, but just open her up. And I got a pizza. Look at that. Oh yeah. I got my favorite Canadian bacon pineapple. Oh, she's definitely soft. Oh, somewhat frozen. Not bad. Just turn the freezer down a bit. I'm really happy with that thing because I can adjust the temperature. I can have it either be a freezer or a fridge. And since it's a coffin style, it's more efficient. We're gonna wait for that to heat up and throw my pizza in when it's done. Whoa, that's better. That's cooked. I'm excited. But as I was saying, or if I haven't said it yet, I don't have a pizza cutter, which is kind of unfortunate, but we'll just have to do it with this, which should be good enough. While I'm waiting for my pizza to cool so I can cut it and eat, I'm going to close out the video. Pretty simple video today, pretty slow day. A nice little camp tour a little walk around the lake, a quick trip to town, which I didn't cover, and some motorcycle riding practice. Appreciate you tuning in. If you like the video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I hope you stick around and subscribe. And there's that little bell that'll notify you every time I post a video. I'll be honest, I don't have notifications for anybody I subscribe to, so I totally understand if you don't do that, but that's how you get notifications if you want them. And lastly, please comment below if you have anything you want to see, any opinions on what I showed you, any advice for riding, anything like that. Having said all that, I've rambled a lot today. Thank you for sticking with it all the way to the end. Have a great evening, and I'll see you on the next one.